I stood in the marble lobby of Patterson Tech Solutions, my own company, watching my father desperately ask the receptionist if his daughter worked there. He didn't recognize the confident CEO before him as the struggling college student he abandoned financially 3 years ago. While he begged for help finding me, I had already built the empire that would soon employ his struggling construction business. The man who claimed poverty when I needed rent money was about to discover exactly who held all the power now. 3 years earlier, I was Krista Patterson, a senior at Arizona State University with a 3.9 GPA and dreams bigger than my bank account could support. Double majoring in business administration and computer science had consumed every moment of my life, but I was finally approaching the finish line. My thesis on emerging technology markets and small businesses had already caught the attention of 2 professors who suggested I pursue graduate school immediately after graduation. The problem was surviving until then. I worked 20 hours a week at the campus bookstore shelving inventory and helping freshmen find overpriced textbooks they would never open. Weekends meant catering gigs across Phoenix carrying heavy trays and smiling politely while wealthy families celebrated achievements my own family barely acknowledged. Between classes, work, and studying, I survived on vending machine coffee and whatever free food the catering company let me take home. My parents, Frank and Carol Patterson, lived comfortably in a 3-bedroom ranch house in suburban Glendale. Dad owned Patterson Construction, a small but steady business that had supported our family for 2 decades. Mom worked part-time at a dental office and spent her afternoons volunteering at the local animal shelter. They drove 2 reliable cars, took annual vacations to Lake Tahoe, and never seemed to worry about money the way I obsessed over every dollar, which made their response to my request for help so bewildering. $300 a month. That's all I needed to cover rent for my final semester. I had calculated everything down to the penny tuition covered by loans and scholarships, groceries, budgeted at $80 weekly gas money earned through my campus job. Just $300 monthly would let me focus on finishing strong instead of picking up more shifts that were already destroying my sleep schedule. I presented my case during Sunday dinner in February, complete with a written budget and timeline showing exactly when I would pay them back after graduation. Several companies had already expressed interest in hiring me, and my internship supervisor at a local startup had hinted at a full-time offer. Dad barely looked up from his pot roast. "Business has been slow lately, sweetheart. Your mother's had some medical bills recently and we're stretched pretty thin right now." Mom nodded sympathetically but offered no real support. "Maybe you could take fewer classes this semester. Graduating a semester later isn't the end of the world." I stared at them in disbelief. Mom's medical bills consisted of routine dental cleaning and a small cavity filling. Dad's construction business had just completed a major residential project that he had bragged about for weeks. Taking fewer classes would mean losing my academic momentum and delaying my career by months. But I felt guilty for even asking. Maybe I was being unreasonable expecting help when they had their own expenses to manage. That illusion shattered the following week during another Sunday dinner. My brother Tyler, 26 years old and perpetually finding himself, casually mentioned his upcoming spring break trip to Cancun with 3 college friends who had graduated years ago but still lived like students. He described the Ocean View Resort they had booked, the deep-sea fishing excursion planned for Wednesday, and the rental car they would need for exploring the area. While he talked enthusiastically about spending what sounded like thousands of dollars on vacation, I was calculating whether I could afford both my organic chemistry textbook and groceries that week. The textbook cost $230 used. Groceries would run at least $60 if I wanted to eat more than ramen noodles and peanut butter sandwiches. Tyler had been living at home rent-free since dropping out of community college 4 years earlier. He worked sporadically at a retail electronics store, calling in sick whenever he felt like sleeping late or hanging out with friends. Mom did his laundry, Dad paid his car insurance, and somehow he always had money for entertainment while I was selling plasma twice a week to cover basic living expenses. The unfairness hit me like a physical blow, but I kept quiet. Maybe Tyler had been saving money from his job even though he had never shown any inclination toward financial responsibility in his entire adult life. I was about to learn exactly how wrong I was about everything. By mid-March, my financial situation had become desperate. I was skipping breakfast daily and eating lunch only when the catering company had leftover sandwiches. My supervisor, Janet, a kind woman in her 50s who had been managing events for 15 years, noticed my exhaustion during a particularly demanding wedding reception. "Honey, you look like you haven't slept in weeks," she said while we packed up centerpieces at midnight. "I can give you extra shifts if you need them, but you can't keep running yourself into the ground like this." I gratefully accepted additional weekend work, even though it meant studying until 3 in the morning most nights. My grades were starting to slip for the first time in my academic career. Professor Martinez, who taught my advanced database management course, asked me to stay after class one Thursday. "Your last 2 assignments have been below your usual standard," he said gently. "Is everything all right? You seem distracted lately." I wanted to tell him about working 14-hour days, about choosing between textbooks and meals, about my family's inexplicable refusal to help, while they supported my brother's endless leisure activities. Instead, I mumbled something about adjusting to a heavier course load and promised to do better. The breaking point came on a Wednesday evening in late March. I had stopped by my parents' house to use their printer for a research paper, since my ancient laptop couldn't handle the graphics requirements. While waiting for the pages to print, I sat at the kitchen table reviewing notes and trying not to fall asleep over my textbooks. Dad was in the living room talking on the phone, his voice carrying clearly through the open doorway. I wasn't intentionally eavesdropping, but his words made me freeze in place. $8,000 is a lot of money, Carol, he was saying, but the boy needs a fresh start. He's finally getting serious about his career, and we can't let him declare bankruptcy at 26. My mother's voice was quieter, but I could make out her response. "I agree, Frank. Tyler's debt was from bad decisions, but this will help him start over. We should pay it off completely so he doesn't have to worry about interest charges." $8,000. My brother had racked up $8,000 in credit card debt, and my parents were planning to pay it off entirely. The same parents who claimed they couldn't spare $300 monthly to help their daughter finish college. Dad continued, "I'll take a loan against the house equity tomorrow. We should have enough to cover everything and maybe give him a little extra to get back on his feet." I sat motionless, staring at my printed research paper without seeing the words. My hands were shaking with a combination of rage and disbelief. Tyler was getting an $8,000 bailout while I was literally choosing between food and education. When my parents came into the kitchen a few minutes later, I tried to act normal, but Mom immediately noticed something was wrong. "You look upset, sweetheart. Did something happen at school?" I almost laughed at the irony. "I accidentally overheard your phone conversation about Tyler's debt." Dad's face went red, whether from embarrassment or anger, I couldn't tell. "That's a private family matter, Krista. Tyler's situation is different from yours." "How is it different?" I asked, keeping my voice steady despite the fury building inside me. He's 26 years old and has never shown any financial responsibility. I'm asking for help with education costs while maintaining a nearly perfect GPA. "Tyler's debt was an emergency," Mom interjected. "Your education is an investment you should be able to handle yourself. You're smart and capable." The twisted logic was breathtaking. Tyler's irresponsible spending was an emergency requiring immediate rescue, but my pursuit of a degree that would actually provide return on investment was my problem alone. "What exactly did he spend $8,000 on?" I asked. Dad and Mom exchanged uncomfortable glances. "That's not really your business," Dad said finally. But Tyler himself answered that question the following Sunday. Over dinner, he casually mentioned his bad luck at the casino near Scottsdale, talking about how he had been so close to winning big several times. He described buying expensive electronics he had later returned, or sold luxury dinners at high-end restaurants and concert tickets that cost more than I spent on food in a month. None of it had been for necessities. None of it had been for emergencies. It had all been for immediate gratification and entertainment, funded by credit cards he never intended to pay off himself. And my parents were rewarding this behavior with a complete financial rescue while lecturing me about personal responsibility. The final insult came that same evening when Tyler announced he was quitting his retail job because it was beneath him, and he wanted to explore other opportunities. Dad immediately offered him a $500 monthly allowance until he could get back on his feet. $500, more than I had asked for, given freely to the son who had just proven his complete lack of financial judgment. I made a decision that night that would change everything. I was done asking my family for help, done expecting fairness, and done accepting their version of reality, where Tyler's failures were emergencies, while my ambitions were luxuries. I was going to save myself, and I was going to disappear while doing it. April arrived with a crushing academic crisis that finally forced me to confront how unsustainable my situation had become. Working 35 hours weekly while carrying 18 credit hours had pushed my body beyond its limits. During a crucial database management exam, I found myself staring at questions I knew I could answer, but couldn't process through the fog of exhaustion. Professor Martinez called me to his office the following day with my graded exam in hand, a 72%, the lowest grade I had received since high school. "Krista, this isn't like you," he said, genuine concern in his voice. "Your previous work has been exceptional, but I've watched you struggle these past few weeks. What's going on?" I wanted to maintain my pride to insist everything was fine, but the words tumbled out before I could stop them. I told him about working multiple jobs, about my family's refusal to help, about surviving on vending machine coffee and whatever food I could find. By the end, I was crying in his office like a child. Dr. Martinez listened without judgment, then offered something unexpected. "I've been consulting for a tech startup downtown. They need someone to organize their database systems, and the work can be done remotely with flexible hours. It pays $25 per hour. Interested?" $25 per hour was more than both my other jobs combined. I accepted immediately, not knowing this opportunity would become the foundation of everything that followed. But first, I had to endure one more devastating blow from my family. The following Wednesday evening, I received a text from Tyler. "Family dinner Sunday. Big announcement." I almost didn't go. The previous week's conversation about his debt had left me feeling raw and angry. But some masochistic part of me needed to witness whatever fresh insult awaited. Tyler's big announcement was that he was moving out of the family home. Not because he had found stable employment or developed sudden maturity, but because he wanted an apartment closer to the nightlife district, where he and his friends preferred to spend their evenings. "I found this great place downtown," he said, pulling up photos on his phone. 2 bedrooms, pool gym, the works. It's only $1,500 a month, and Dad's going to help with the security deposit. $1,500 monthly for an apartment he couldn't afford, funded by parents who had claimed poverty when I needed $300 for rent. But the revelation that followed was even worse. "Actually," Dad interjected, "we've decided to cover your first 6 months of rent too. Give you time to find the right job without pressure." $9,000. They were giving Tyler $9,000 in rent money over 6 months, plus security deposit and moving expenses. The same week, they had paid off his $8,000 credit card debt. I excused myself to the bathroom and sat on the edge of the bathtub, trying not to vomit from the sheer injustice of it all. My brother was receiving nearly $20,000 in financial support for his convenience and entertainment, while I was failing classes because I couldn't afford to eat properly. When I returned to the dining room, Mom was discussing Tyler's furniture needs with the enthusiasm she had never shown for my academic achievements. They were planning a shopping trip to furnish his entire apartment. "What about Krista?" Tyler asked suddenly, and for one moment I thought he might acknowledge the unfairness of the situation. "Should we get her something to—" Dad glanced at me dismissively. "Krista's focused on school. She doesn't need distractions right now." The casual dismissal of my existence in their financial planning was the final straw. I'd been invisible in their eyes for months, my struggles irrelevant compared to Tyler's wants. That evening, sitting in my tiny studio apartment eating ramen noodles for the 4th consecutive day, I opened my laptop and began researching remote work opportunities across the country. Dr. Martinez's consulting offer had shown me there was a wider world of possibilities beyond Phoenix, beyond my family's narrow vision of my worth. I spent the next 3 hours applying for remote positions with tech companies in Seattle, Austin, Denver, and San Francisco. I crafted cover letters emphasizing my academic performance, my work ethic, and my ability to deliver results under pressure. I had nothing left to lose. The response was faster than I had dared hope. By Friday morning, I had received interview requests from 4 companies. By the following Tuesday, I had 3 job offers, each paying more than I had ever imagined possible. The best offer came from a Seattle-based startup called TechFlow Solutions, specializing in database optimization for small and medium businesses. They offered $45,000 annually for a junior consultant position, with opportunities for rapid advancement based on performance. The work was entirely remote, with quarterly team meetings in Seattle that they would fund. $45,000, more than my father made in most years from his construction business. More than enough to finish school, pay my own rent, and never again depend on family members who had proven they valued my brother's comfort over my survival. I accepted the position immediately, then began planning my escape from the toxic dynamic that had nearly destroyed my academic career and my faith in my own worth. My family had made their choice about where I ranked in their priorities. Now I was going to show them exactly what they had thrown away. The beauty of my escape plan was its simplicity. TechFlow Solutions didn't care where I lived, as long as I had reliable internet and could attend video conferences during Pacific Standard Time business hours. My professors, impressed by my previous academic performance and understanding of my financial struggles, agreed to let me complete my remaining coursework through independent study arrangements. Within 2 weeks of accepting the job offer, I had sublet my Phoenix studio apartment, packed my few belongings into my 10-year-old Honda Civic, and driven north to Flagstaff. The mountain town was only 2.5 hours from my family, but felt like a different world. I rented a small 1-bedroom apartment near Northern Arizona University's campus, surrounded by pine trees and blessed with reliable, high-speed internet. My family barely noticed my departure. When Mom called asking why I had missed Sunday dinner, I mentioned moving to Flagstaff for a work opportunity, but kept details vague. She seemed more concerned about who would help Tyler move into his new apartment than about my sudden relocation. "That's nice, sweetheart," she said absently. "Tyler's moving this weekend, and we could really use an extra pair of hands." I politely declined claiming work commitments. The truth was, I never wanted to participate in celebrating Tyler's continued financial dependence, while my own independence went unacknowledged. Starting at TechFlow was like discovering I had been playing a game on easy mode for my entire life. The work challenged every skill I had developed during 4 years of computer science coursework, but for the first time, I was being paid fairly for my intellectual contributions. My supervisor, Angela Chen, was a brilliant systems architect who had left Google to help build something innovative in the small business sector. "You have excellent analytical instincts," she told me during my first-month performance review. "Most junior consultants need 6 months to start thinking strategically about database optimization. You're already there." I was hungry for success in a way that surprised even me. Without the constant stress of financial survival, my mind could focus entirely on learning and growing. I consumed technical documentation during lunch breaks, attended online seminars after hours, and volunteered for challenging projects other consultants avoided. My first major success came in month 3 when I designed a custom inventory management system for a chain of auto parts stores in Oregon. The client had been losing thousands of dollars monthly due to inefficient stock tracking. My solution reduced their overhead costs by 30% and improved customer satisfaction dramatically. "This is senior-level work," Angela said, reviewing my final project report. "You've just saved this client more money in 6 months than they've spent on our services in 2 years. While I was building professional credibility in the tech industry, my family's financial situation was deteriorating in ways I learned about only through Tyler's increasingly frantic phone calls. He had quit his part-time retail job before moving into the expensive downtown apartment, confident that something better would materialize quickly. When nothing did, he began pressuring our parents for additional support. "I need more time to find the right opportunity," he explained during one conversation I overheard when I called Mom about my grandmother's birthday. "The job market is really competitive right now." Dad, whose construction business was struggling with an economic downturn in the Phoenix housing market, nevertheless continued funding Tyler's lifestyle. The 6-month rent commitment stretched to 8 months, then 10. Tyler's grocery bills, utility costs, and entertainment expenses all flowed through our parents' credit cards. Meanwhile, I had been promoted twice at TechFlow and was earning $65,000 annually. I had paid off my student loans ahead of schedule, built an emergency fund, and started investing in a retirement account. My apartment was small but comfortable, filled with books and technology that reflected my growing expertise. The isolation from my family felt healing rather than lonely. I made friends among Flagstaff's outdoor recreation community, spending weekends hiking in Oak Creek Canyon and learning to rock climb at local gyms. For the first time in years, I had energy for activities beyond survival. But the most significant development was the business idea that began forming during my daily work with small business clients. I noticed patterns in their struggles: outdated technology systems, inefficient processes, lack of strategic planning for digital transformation. Most consulting firms either specialized in massive corporations or provided generic solutions that didn't address specific industry needs. There was an enormous market opportunity for a consulting firm that understood the particular challenges of family-owned businesses, construction companies, retail operations, and other traditional industries that needed to modernize without losing their core identity. I began developing a business plan during evenings and weekends, researching market competitors, identifying potential clients, and designing service packages that would provide exceptional value at affordable prices. By month 8 at TechFlow, I had a comprehensive strategy for launching my own consulting firm. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was planning to build a business serving exactly the type of companies my father owned, solving exactly the problems that were causing his construction business to struggle against more technologically sophisticated competitors. Angela noticed my entrepreneurial focus during our regular check-ins and surprised me with unexpected support. "You're too talented to stay in a junior consulting role forever," she said. "If you're serious about starting your own firm, I'll be your first client. TechFlow occasionally outsources specialized projects, and I trust your work more than most of the established contractors we've used." That endorsement gave me the confidence to take the next step. In month 10 of my employment with TechFlow, I registered Patterson Tech Solutions as a limited liability company in Arizona, using my middle name to avoid immediate family recognition. I secured a business license, opened separate banking accounts, and began networking with potential clients across the Southwest. My parents, during our increasingly infrequent phone conversations, remained oblivious to my professional success. They asked vague questions about my computer job, but showed no genuine interest in my work or accomplishments. Tyler, now living at home again after being unable to afford his apartment, even with parental support, dominated every family conversation with his latest career aspirations. "He's thinking about going back to school," Mom reported during one call. "Maybe business management or marketing. We're looking into programs that might be a good fit." More educational funding for Tyler, naturally. The son who had dropped out of community college and shown no academic inclination for 6 years was now being encouraged to pursue higher education, while my own graduation had been treated as an inconvenience they couldn't afford to support. I made a decision that would define the next phase of my life. I was going to build something extraordinary, something that would prove my worth beyond any doubt. I was going to create a business empire that would make my family's construction company look small and outdated by comparison. And when the time came for the revelation, I would be the one holding all the power. By my second year in Flagstaff, Patterson Tech Solutions had evolved from a side project into a legitimate business operation, What started as weekend consulting for small businesses had grown into a comprehensive digital transformation company serving clients across Arizona, New Mexico, and Nevada. My breakthrough came when I landed a contract with a regional restaurant chain that needed complete technology overhaul. Their existing systems were a nightmare of incompatible software programs, manual inventory tracking, and customer data scattered across multiple platforms. I designed an integrated solution that connected their point-of-sale systems, inventory management, employee scheduling, and customer loyalty programs into one seamless operation. The results were dramatic. Within 4 months, their food costs dropped by 18%, employee productivity increased substantially, and customer satisfaction scores reached all-time highs. The chain's owners were so impressed they recommended my services to their business network, leading to contracts with 2 hotel groups and a furniture retailer. Word traveled quickly in Arizona's close-knit business community. Companies that had been struggling with outdated processes suddenly had access to enterprise-level solutions at small business prices. I specialized in understanding traditional industries and translating complex technology into practical improvements they could implement without disrupting their core operations. My client roster expanded to include construction companies, manufacturing firms, medical practices, and retail operations. Each success story generated referrals to similar businesses facing comparable challenges. I hired my first employee, Marcus Rodriguez, a brilliant software developer who had been working for a Phoenix tech company but wanted more creative freedom. 6 months later, I added Sarah Kim, a project manager with exceptional organizational skills and a talent for client relations. We operated entirely remotely, which kept overhead costs minimal while allowing us to hire the best talent regardless of location. Our third employee, David Thompson, joined us from a Denver consulting firm, bringing expertise in cybersecurity and data analytics. Jennifer Wu, our fifth team member, specialized in user interface design and had previously worked for Apple. The business model was elegant in its simplicity. We provided sophisticated solutions at competitive prices, delivered exceptional customer service, and maintained long-term relationships that generated steady revenue streams. Unlike larger consulting firms that assign different teams to each project phase, we provided continuity and personal attention that smaller businesses valued highly. By the end of year 2, Patterson Tech Solutions was generating over $400,000 in annual revenue. I was personally earning more than twice my father's best year in construction, and the company was growing at a rate that suggested we would cross $1 million in revenue within the following year. The financial success was satisfying, but the real reward was the professional respect I had earned within Arizona's business community. I was invited to speak at industry conferences, served on the advisory board for Northern Arizona University's Business Technology program, and was featured in Arizona Business Magazine as one of the state's most promising young entrepreneurs. None of this reached my family's attention initially. Our phone conversations remained infrequent and superficial. Mom would ask how my computer work was going, and I would provide vague updates about staying busy with projects. They seemed content to believe I was working a modest tech support role that paid enough for me to live quietly in Flagstaff. Meanwhile, Tyler's situation had become increasingly problematic for our parents. After moving back home from his failed apartment experiment, he had cycled through a series of employment attempts, a brief stint selling insurance 3 weeks at a car dealership and 2 months working for a friend's landscaping business before deciding manual labor wasn't suitable for his skill set. Each career change required financial support from our parents. Professional clothing for the insurance job, a security deposit for apartment hunting when the dealership position seemed promising tools, and equipment for landscaping work he abandoned almost immediately. Dad's construction business was struggling with competition from larger companies that had embraced modern project management and customer communication technologies. The irony was becoming almost painful. While my business specialized in helping companies like his succeed in a changing market, Dad remained stubbornly committed to operating the way he had for 20 years. He used paper filing systems for customer records, relied on phone calls for all client communication, and tracked project costs with handwritten ledgers that made accurate bidding nearly impossible. His biggest competitors were winning contracts, not necessarily because they offered better construction work, but because they could provide detailed project timelines, real-time cost updates, and professional client portals that kept customers informed throughout the building process. Dad dismissed these improvements as fancy computer nonsense, while losing bids to companies that presented themselves as modern and efficient. In year 3 of my business, I made the decision to establish a physical presence in Phoenix. The company had grown large enough to benefit from a professional office space where we could meet clients and project a more established image. I found a beautiful suite in the cityscape development downtown, 12 blocks from the suburban neighborhood where I had grown up feeling invisible and undervalued. The office space was everything I had dreamed of during those desperate college years, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city skyline, conference rooms equipped with the latest presentation technology, and a reception area that communicated success and professionalism to every visitor. My team loved having a gathering place for our quarterly meetings, and clients were impressed by the professional environment. We hired a receptionist, Amanda Foster, whose warm personality and organizational skills made every visitor feel welcomed and important. Patterson Tech Solutions was no longer a small consulting operation run by a recent college graduate. We were a legitimate technology firm competing successfully against established companies with decades of experience. I had built something substantial, something valuable, something that commanded respect in the business community. But the most significant development was yet to come. During a networking event at the Phoenix Chamber of Commerce, I overheard a conversation that made my blood run cold. 2 construction company owners were discussing their struggles with project management and client communication. One mentioned that his business might fail if he couldn't modernize his operations quickly. "My biggest competitor just landed 3 contracts I thought I had locked up," he said. "They showed up with professional presentations, detailed timelines, and some kind of customer portal system. Made my handwritten estimates look like amateur hour." His companion nodded sympathetically. "Same thing happened to me last month. These young companies are making us all look outdated. I heard there's a consulting firm downtown that specializes in helping traditional businesses upgrade their technology. Patterson Tech Solutions." The first man confirmed. "My neighbor used them for his auto repair shop and says they're miracle workers. I'm thinking about scheduling a consultation, but their website says they're pretty selective about clients." I stood frozen beside the refreshment table, realizing that my business had developed a reputation significant enough to influence my father's industry. Companies like his were actively seeking the solutions I provided, while his own business struggled with problems I could solve easily. The convergence I had been unconsciously preparing for was finally approaching. Within days of that conversation, my worst fears were confirmed. Amanda informed me that a Frank Patterson from Patterson Construction had called requesting a consultation meeting. He wanted to discuss emergency technology upgrade options for his struggling construction business. My father had no idea that the successful consulting firm his colleagues recommended was owned and operated by the daughter he had dismissed and ignored. He was about to walk into my office as a supplicant, seeking help from the child he had refused to support when she needed it most. Justice was about to be served in the most poetic way imaginable. The appointment was scheduled for 2:30 on a Thursday afternoon in November, 3 years and 8 months after my family had refused to help me with college rent. Amanda had placed Frank Patterson on my calendar with a note, "Construction company owner. Urgent need for technology upgrade potential for significant contract." I spent the morning reviewing everything I knew about Patterson Construction's situation. Through business networking contacts and public records, I had learned that Dad's company was on the verge of bankruptcy. He had lost 8 major contracts in the past 6 months to competitors who could provide modern project management and customer service. His overhead costs were climbing while revenue dropped steadily. The solutions he needed were exactly the services Patterson Tech Solutions provided to construction companies regularly. We had helped dozens of traditional contractors modernize their operations, streamline their processes, and compete effectively against larger firms. For any other client, this would be a straightforward consultation with predictable outcomes. But this wasn't any other client. This was the man who had valued my brother's entertainment expenses over my educational success, who had dismissed my potential while funding Tyler's continued irresponsibility. I called my team together for a brief meeting that morning, wanting to ensure everyone understood the significance of the afternoon appointment without revealing personal details. The 2:30 consultation is with a local construction company that's exactly the type of client we serve best. I told Marcus, Sarah, David, and Jennifer, traditional family business, strong work quality, but struggling with outdated systems and processes. They're losing contracts to more technologically sophisticated competitors. Sarah nodded knowingly. Sounds like the restaurant chain we helped last year. They had great food but couldn't compete with places that offered online ordering and loyalty programs. Similar situation, I agreed. The difference is that this consultation needs to be handled personally by me, rather than delegated to anyone else. There are some unique factors that require my direct involvement. At 2:15, Amanda buzzed my office intercom. Mr. Patterson and his son have arrived for the consultation. They're in the main conference room. Tyler was with him. Of course, Tyler was with him, probably presenting himself as a business partner or consultant, despite having no relevant experience or expertise. Some things never changed. I took a moment to compose myself, checking my appearance in the mirror behind my desk. Professional navy suit, confident posture, the demeanor of someone who commanded respect in boardrooms across the Southwest. I was no longer the desperate college student begging for $300 in rent money. I was the CEO of a successful consulting firm holding all the power in this relationship. Walking through the office toward the conference room, I could see them through the glass walls. Dad looked older than I remembered, his face lined with stress and exhaustion. He wore his best suit, which I recognized from family weddings and funerals, and carried a worn leather folder that probably contained financial documents and project records. Tyler sat beside him, wearing clothes I didn't recognize, trying to project an air of professional competence that his posture and expression completely undermined. He was scanning our office space with obvious amazement, clearly unprepared for the level of sophistication and success our company projected. I paused outside the conference room door, listening to their conversation. "This place is incredible," Tyler was saying. "How much do you think it costs to rent an office like this?" "Focus, son," Dad replied tersely. "We're here to discuss saving the business, not to admire the furniture. I need this meeting to go well, or we might lose everything." The desperation in his voice was unmistakable. Patterson Construction wasn't just struggling, it was facing imminent failure. The man who had claimed financial constraints when I needed educational support was now confronting the possibility of losing his life's work. I opened the conference room door and stepped inside with the confidence of someone who belonged there. "Good afternoon," I said professionally. "I'm Krista Patterson, CEO of Patterson Tech Solutions. Thank you for coming in today." The silence that followed was absolute. Dad's face went through a series of expressions: confusion, recognition, shock, and finally something approaching panic. Tyler's mouth literally dropped open as he processed the impossibility of what he was seeing. "Krista." Dad's voice was barely above a whisper. "But I thought... Amanda said the CEO would be meeting with us, but I never imagined..." "You never imagined your daughter could build something like this." I finished calmly, taking my seat at the head of the conference table. "Please sit down. I understand Patterson Construction is facing some significant challenges." Tyler recovered first, immediately shifting into his characteristic opportunistic mode. "Krista, this is amazing. I always knew you'd do something incredible with computers. Dad and I were just talking about how we should bring you into the family business somehow. The blatant lie would have been laughable if it weren't so predictable. Tyler had never shown any interest in my career or capabilities until this moment when he realized they might benefit him somehow. Dad remained silent, staring at the conference room's professional atmosphere, the wall-mounted monitor displaying our company achievements, the polished table surrounded by ergonomic chairs, the view of downtown Phoenix through floor-to-ceiling windows. This was success on a scale he had never achieved, built by the daughter he had dismissed as financially irresponsible. "Let's focus on why you're here," I said, opening the folder Amanda had prepared with Patterson Construction's public business information. "Your company has lost several major contracts recently to competitors who offer more sophisticated project management and customer communication. Your overhead costs are rising while revenue declines. Without significant operational changes, you're projecting potential bankruptcy within 6 to 8 months. The accurate assessment of his situation seemed to snap Dad out of his shock. "How do you know all that?" "It's my job to understand potential clients' situations before consultation meetings," I replied matter-of-factly. Patterson Tech Solutions specializes in helping traditional businesses modernize their operations to compete effectively in current markets. We've successfully assisted 43 construction companies with digital transformation projects over the past 3 years. Tyler leaned forward eagerly. "So you can definitely help us, right? I mean, we're family. So obviously you'd want to make sure Dad's business succeeds." The assumption that family relationship would automatically translate to favorable treatment was so typical of Tyler's entitled worldview. He expected benefits without offering value assistance, without accountability. "I can certainly help Patterson Construction," I said carefully, "but this would be a professional consulting relationship with standard terms and expectations. Our family connection doesn't change our business practices or fee structure." Dad finally found his voice. "Krista, I know we haven't talked much recently, and I realize now that we may have made some mistakes in how we handled your college situation, but I'm desperate here. The business my father started that I've spent 20 years building, it's all falling apart." The admission was more than I had expected. Not a full acknowledgement of their unfair treatment, but at least recognition that they had made mistakes regarding my education. "Tell me specifically what's causing you to lose contracts," I said, shifting the conversation to practical matters. For the next 30 minutes, Dad outlined Patterson Construction's problems with brutal honesty. His competitors could provide detailed project timelines that impressed potential customers. They offered real-time cost tracking that prevented budget overruns. They used professional communication systems that kept clients informed throughout construction projects. His handwritten estimates and phone-based customer service looked amateurish by comparison. Even when his bids were competitive, customers chose companies that appeared more organized and reliable. "Last month, I lost a $75,000 kitchen remodel to a company that charged $8,000 more than my bid," he said with frustration. "The homeowner said my competitor's presentation made them feel more confident about the project management." Every problem he described had a solution. Patterson Tech Solutions had developed comprehensive packages for construction companies that addressed exactly these challenges. We could implement project management software, create customer communication portals, and design professional presentation materials that would make Patterson Construction competitive immediately. The technical solutions were straightforward. The emotional complexity of the situation was what made this consultation unlike any other in my career. Here was my father, the man who had prioritized Tyler's entertainment over my survival, asking for help from the daughter, whose potential he had dismissed. He needed exactly the expertise I had developed, the business I had built, the success he had never believed I could achieve. The power dynamic had completely reversed. I was no longer the supplicant begging for $300. I was the successful business owner whose assistance could save his failing company. And Tyler sat beside him, already calculating how he could insert himself into whatever arrangement emerged from this meeting, confident that family relationships would guarantee his inclusion in any success that followed. They had no idea how carefully I was about to define the terms of our new relationship. "I can save Patterson Construction," I said after reviewing Dad's financial projections and operational challenges. "Our standard digital transformation package for construction companies includes project management software, customer communication systems, and professional presentation tools that would address every problem you've described." Relief flooded Dad's face, but I wasn't finished outlining the terms. "However, this would be a strictly professional relationship with clearly defined boundaries and expectations. Patterson Tech Solutions doesn't provide family discounts or special treatment based on personal relationships." Tyler immediately protested. "But Krista, we're family. Surely you'd want to help Dad save the business that supported our whole family for years." The irony of his statement was breathtaking. "The business that supported the family," I repeated slowly. "Tell me, Tyler, how exactly did Patterson Construction support my education when I needed $300 monthly for rent?" His face flushed red, but he pressed forward with characteristic entitlement. "That was different. You were already getting loans and scholarships. Dad needed to help me with my debt situation because it was more urgent." "Your gambling debts and luxury purchases were more urgent than my college education." I clarified, wanting the words spoken aloud. $8,000 in credit card debt from casinos and entertainment was a higher priority than helping your sister finish her degree. Dad winced at the direct confrontation but didn't deny the accuracy of my summary. "Krista, we made mistakes back then. We didn't understand how serious your financial situation was." "You understood perfectly," I corrected him. "I provided detailed budgets, showed you exactly how the money would be used, and explained the consequences of not having support. You chose to prioritize Tyler's wants over my needs because you believed his comfort was more important than my success." The conference room fell silent as the full weight of their past decisions settled over the conversation. Tyler shifted uncomfortably in his chair while Dad stared at the table, finally confronting the magnitude of his favoritism. "What would it take for you to help us?" Dad asked quietly. I had spent months preparing for this moment, knowing it would eventually arrive once my business reputation reached Patterson Construction's industry. The terms I outlined were carefully calculated to provide both justice and redemption. Standard consulting fee, $15,000 for complete digital transformation payable in 3 installments. Implementation timeline of 6 weeks with ongoing technical support included for 1 year. All communication goes through official business channels, not family relationships. Dad nodded slowly. "Those terms seem fair." "I'm not finished," I continued. "Tyler wants to be involved in this business arrangement, which means he needs to demonstrate actual value rather than expecting inclusion based on family connection. If he wants any role in Patterson Construction's modernization, he starts at entry level in our company learning proper work ethic and professional standards." Tyler's face went through multiple expressions before settling on indignation. "Entry level, I'm 29 years old, Krista. I have experience in multiple industries." "You have experience in quitting multiple jobs when they required effort," I corrected. "If you want to be part of Patterson Construction's revival, you prove yourself through performance, not family relationships. 40 hours, weekly professional standards, accountability for results." Dad surprised me by supporting the conditions immediately. "Tyler, this is our chance to save everything. If Krista's willing to help, despite how we treated her, the least you can do is prove you're serious about contributing." The negotiation concluded with signed contracts that protected both companies while establishing clear performance expectations. Patterson Tech Solutions would modernize Patterson Construction's operations, while Tyler would begin working entry-level position with our firm to learn professional standards he had never developed. But the personal reconciliation required deeper conversation than business contracts could address. 2 weeks later, Mom arrived at my office unannounced. Amanda called to inform me that Carol Patterson was in the reception area asking to speak with me personally. I found her sitting quietly in our lobby, staring at the awards and client testimonials displayed on the walls. She looked smaller than I remembered, diminished by the reality of what she was seeing. "Your father told me about the meeting," she said when I approached. "Krista, I had no idea you had built something like this." I invited her into my private office where floor-to-ceiling windows provided a panoramic view of the Phoenix skyline. Mom sat across from my desk, taking in the professional environment with obvious amazement. "We failed you completely," she said without preamble. "I've spent 2 weeks thinking about every decision we made during your college years, and I'm ashamed of how badly we misjudged everything." The apology was more direct than I had expected. "What changed your mind?" "Seeing this office talking to your father about the business solutions you're providing, understanding the success you've achieved entirely on your own," she said. "We thought Tyler needed more help because he struggled with everything while you seemed so capable. We used your competence as an excuse to neglect your needs." It was the most honest assessment of their parenting failures I had ever heard from either parent. "Tyler needed consequences, not bailouts," I said. "I needed support, not dismissal." "I know that now," Mom replied. "Can you forgive us? Can we find a way to build a healthier relationship based on who we all are today, rather than the mistakes we made years ago?" The question hung between us for several moments while I considered my response. Forgiveness didn't require forgetting, but it could create space for healthier relationships based on changed behavior rather than past resentments. "Yes," I said finally, "but the family dynamic has to be completely different. No more favoritism, no more enabling Tyler's irresponsibility, no more dismissing my achievements. We build relationships based on mutual respect and honest communication." Over the following months, the transformation was remarkable. Patterson Construction's modernization succeeded beyond Dad's most optimistic projections. The new project management systems eliminated cost overruns, customer communication portals, dramatically improved satisfaction ratings, and professional presentation materials helped him win contracts against larger competitors. Within 6 months, his business was not only stable, but growing. He hired 2 additional employees and began expanding into commercial construction projects he had never been able to pursue effectively. Tyler's development was slower, but genuine. Working entry-level at Patterson Tech Solutions forced him to confront his lack of professional skills and work ethic. Marcus Rodriguez became an excellent mentor, teaching Tyler programming basics while holding him accountable for consistent performance. "He's actually trying," Marcus reported during one of our team meetings. "It's the first time I've seen him complete projects without constant supervision." Tyler's gradual development of genuine work skills and professional standards helped repair his relationship with Dad, who finally stopped enabling his irresponsibility and started expecting actual contributions. The personal relationships required more time to heal, but the foundation was stronger than before. Family dinners became occasions for genuine conversation rather than Tyler's domination of attention. Dad asked thoughtful questions about my business and clients, showing real interest in my professional achievements. Most importantly, they learned to see me as an independent adult whose success reflected well on the entire family rather than threatening their established dynamics. 1 year after the confrontation in my conference room, Patterson Construction and Patterson Tech Solutions announced a formal partnership. Dad's company would handle all construction aspects of projects, while my firm provided technology integration and digital project management for clients who wanted both services. The partnership generated significant revenue for both companies while providing comprehensive solutions that neither could offer independently. Dad's construction expertise combined with my technology capabilities created competitive advantages that established companies in both industries struggled to match. During the partnership announcement celebration at our office, Dad pulled me aside for a private conversation. "I need to say something I should have said years ago," he began. "You are the most capable, determined, and successful person in our family. What you've accomplished starting from nothing is extraordinary, and I'm proud to be your father." The acknowledgement meant more than any financial support could have during college. It represented genuine recognition of my worth and capabilities, the validation I had craved during those desperate months of choosing between textbooks and meals. "Thank you," I said simply. "That means everything to me." Looking back, I understand that the pain of my family's favoritism was necessary preparation for the independence and drive that built Patterson Tech Solutions. Their refusal to support my education forced me to develop resilience, self-reliance, and determination that I might never have discovered otherwise. Tyler's constant bailouts had weakened his character, while my struggles had strengthened mine. Their misguided parenting had accidentally created the exact qualities I needed to succeed beyond anything they could have imagined. The business empire I built from that first remote consulting job now employs 12 people, serves clients across 6 states, and generates over $2 million annually. Patterson Construction has become one of Phoenix's most respected contractors, known for combining traditional craftsmanship with cutting-edge project management. Most importantly, our family relationships are healthier than they have ever been, built on mutual respect, rather than enabling dynamics. Tyler has developed genuine professional skills and contributes meaningfully to both companies. Dad and Mom treat my achievements with the respect and pride they always should have shown. The girl who once sat in a college apartment choosing between textbooks and groceries now owns the technology company that saved her father's business. The daughter, who was dismissed as financially irresponsible, became the CEO whose expertise rescued the family legacy. Justice wasn't about revenge or punishment. It was about proving my worth so completely that denial became impossible, then using that success to create opportunities for everyone to grow into better versions of themselves. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give people who underestimate you is the chance to witness exactly what they threw away. And sometimes, if they're capable of learning from their mistakes, that revelation becomes the foundation for relationships stronger than anything that came before. The power dynamic in my family changed forever, but not through dominance or resentment. It changed through demonstrated competence, professional success, and the kind of leadership that creates opportunities for everyone to succeed together. That's the real victory, building something so substantial that it elevates everyone around you, proving that success, shared generously, is always more satisfying than success hoarded selfishly. Have you ever been underestimated by people who should have supported your dreams? How did you prove them wrong while still maintaining the relationship? I'd love to hear your stories of turning family challenges into personal triumph. Please like this video if it resonated with you. Subscribe for more stories of resilience and success, and share it with anyone who needs encouragement to keep pursuing their goals, despite lack of support from people who should believe in them. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember that your worth isn't determined by other people's ability to recognize it. Sometimes the greatest success comes from proving yourself to the one person whose opinion matters most, yourself.